let's talk about Social Security. Let's talk about Social Security, especially for spouses. There is certain rules that spouses need to know to maximize Social Security, and yes, you can get Social Security benefits based on your spouse's income. You may never have worked a day in your life, and you can get Social Security, and it'll be based on your spouse's income. So let's talk about the different rules regarding Social Security, because there is a lot of rules. The age that you take it, how long you've been married to your spouse. It's very complicated, and we're dealing with this a lot. The baby boomers are now retiring in droves, and one of the things they have to wade through is Social Security benefits. When to take them, how to take them, how does it affect my spouse? We have to make decisions on Medicare, health care, all these kind of issues. And most people are not really prepared to make those decisions and do that research. So we've done some of it for you. So depending on the age that you start claiming, spousal benefits can range anywhere from 32.5% to 50% of your husband or wife's what's called primary insurance amount. That's the amount of their benefit that they're entitled to receive at full retirement age. Now that's a key right here, full retirement age. Now anybody can take Social Security starting at 62, but you're going to take a diminished amount. Full retirement age is based on the year that you were born. It could be as early as 65, but now it's more like 66 as people are retiring. Once you get to 1960, if you were born on the year that I was born, it's 67. So we're starting to see creeping up of the retirement age for full benefits. And the longer you wait, you get 8% more a year for the rest of your life. And you know what? Half the people, I was surprised to see this statistic, half the people who were taking Social Security started taking it at 62. Which is a big mistake, unless you really have to do it. You know, you're taking like a 25% discount for the rest of your life compared to full retirement age, which again depends on when you were born. And it's going to affect your spousal benefits too. And we're going to talk about survivor benefits. What happens when your spouse dies? So you qualify for spousal benefits if your spouse is already collecting retirement benefits. Number two, you've been married at least a year. You're at least 62 years old. Now there's some exceptions if you're caring for a child who's under 16 or if you're disabled, but let's just push that to the side. You have to be 62 years old or older, just like a regular person taking Social Security. And again, you could collect benefits on your spouse's work record if you never worked yourself. Now, if you did work and you're eligible for both your retirement benefit and a spousal benefit, Social Security is going to pay you the higher of the two amounts. Now, let's talk about survivor benefits. You have to be married to the deceased for at least 9 months. You have to be at least 60 years old. Again, unless you're disabled, then it's 50. And in most cases, survivor benefits are based on the benefit amount that your late spouse was receiving at the time when he died or she died. The amount you receive or are entitled to depends on when you file. If you file early, say at 60, you're only going to get 71.5% of your survivor benefit, of what your spouse got. If you wait to full retirement age, again, 66 to 67, depending on when you're born, you'll get 100% of what your spouse got. So it's important that you wade through this stuff, because it is complicated, and you got to figure out why and when you should take it. Now, Social Security rules could be affected by if a widow remarries. Some people believe that they can't get married again because it's going to affect their benefits. And that's not true. It used to be true a long, long time ago, but Social Security rules regarding survivor benefits were changed in the 1960s, I believe. So if you're 60 or older, there's no reason why you can't remarry and even collect benefits on your deceased husband prior. Originally, widows lost eligibility for survivor benefits if they remarried at any age. In 1965, they changed that. And now widows can remarry once they hit 60. So that's a good thing. A lot of widows don't understand that. A larger change came in 1977, which allows widows to remarry after age 60 and still claim full widow's benefits up to 100% of their deceased husband's full retirement age benefit. So that's good. I mean, here's an example. Let me give you an example. Say you have a 92-year-old husband, and he marries a younger woman. She's 82. And they both lost their spouses in 2020. The husband is collecting his own Social Security benefits, and his bride-to-be is collecting survivor benefits on her late husband. Now, can the wife still continue to collect benefits on a late husband? Yes, absolutely. Given the couple's advanced ages, they're over 60, there's no problem there. But to claim benefits as a survivor, a couple must be married at least 9 months at the time of the spouse's death. So if she's married 9 months to the new spouse, then she can claim benefits on him once he dies, if it's higher than the one she had. So these things get complicated. It's real important to sit down with Social Security as you're getting close to retirement age and discuss all these things, or talk to a financial expert in that. And a lot of people, they come to me and they say, Lou, I don't know how to wade through this. So I've been trying to educate myself on the ins and outs of Social Security. And I've been looking at it for a long time. It's very, very complicated. It really is very, very complicated, even for a certified financial planner like myself. There's a lot of research that has to be done. And just realize that the decisions that you make are irrevocable decisions. Something you have to live with your whole life. Take a husband or wife who retires at 62. Again, half the people on Social Security took it at 62. I guess people feel, well, I'm eligible for it, I might as well take it now. Even though it's diminished, I'm going to get it for a longer amount of time. But that's usually not the right decision to make. And you live with it for the rest of your life. And also, if you die, your spouse gets a diminished survivor benefit. So if you wait to full retirement age and you're getting full benefits, and you pass for the rest of your spouse's life, they will get full benefits as well. So you got to look at these things through. And a lot of people say, Lou, I have no choice. I really need the money at 62. Well, maybe there's something you can do. Maybe there's another option. Maybe you spend down some savings for a few years and use that to live off of. Maybe you, if your house is paid for, you take a home equity line of credit and tap into that for a few years. Maybe you work longer than you anticipated. I mean, life expectancies now are over like 90 years old. And people even living into their 90s, 100. Working a few extra years may be the smart thing to do, even if it's part-time. A lot of people say, well, Lou, it's not that I chose to retire. I was let go. Post-COVID, we're seeing a lot of that now. In my practice, I'm seeing a lot of people who are retiring, age 60, age 62. Why? Because either they just can't take it anymore working, or the COVID thing has stressed them out, and the commute and everything else, or it's been involuntary. They've been let go. And many of these people are panicked. What do I do? Well, the good thing is I am seeing in my practice so many people coming to me now with $1 million plus 401k plans. That's a good thing. It's a reflection of the bull market we've had for the last 10 or 12 years. It's a reflection of people making more money and socking more money into their 401k. Which, by the way, is almost 100% of most people's savings. Many people are retiring now with debt. They still have mortgages. They have car payments. They put their kids through college. They don't have assets outside of their retirement plan. But we're rolling over huge retirement plans. And they say, well, I'm going to start taking, I have to start taking Social Security. No, you don't. Let's take the money out of the now IRA account that we rolled the 401k over to, and let's use that as your Social Security payment until you hit full retirement age. And unfortunately, people come to me, they're 63, 64, they started taking it at 62, and I said to them, why did you take it at 62? You didn't have to do that. You had other options, but you didn't see them. And that's the reason why it's so important to get financial advice from a certified financial planner or an accountant. Because we think of things differently. We look at alternatives. We look at creative ways. And I've been a financial planner for almost 40 years now. I mean, I'm going to think of things differently than you're going to think about. I'm a problem solver. I try to find answers to issues to make it better for people. And waiting for full retirement age is the best thing you could do for yourself, but more importantly, your spouse, if you were to pass away. So before you pull the trigger and decide to take early Social Security benefits or spousal benefits, you really need to sit down with somebody and let them do the calculations. Let them shine some light on things that you may not have thought about. Because again, this is an irrevocable life decision. And I've heard stupid excuses from people why they took it early. It just made no sense. Well, it won't be there for me if I wait. Yes, it will. Those people who believe that Social Security, when I was started in my career in 1983, and through the 80s and even the 90s, people always said, I always ask them, do you think Social Security is going to be there for you? And I'd say back in the day, at least 50% said no. And here we are 40 years later, and for sure we still have Social Security. So we're going to have Social Security 5 years from now? Yeah, it's going to be there. I can't see any situation where the government pulls Social Security or cuts it back or whatever. Now, they may continue to increase the retirement ages, which I think is a good thing, once I get mine at 67. Jim, you can wait till you're 75 to get your Social Security.
I have a long way.
Yeah, but by then, I don't know if it will be there by the time you're ready to retire.
Unfortunately.
I don't know if any of us will be here at that time, but God knows where we'll be next week and next month and what's going on in the world. But don't take Social Security early because you think that it's not going to be there 3 years from now, 5 years from now. It will be there. Other things may be gone. We may have hyperinflation, but you'll still get your Social Security for what it's worth. We'll talk about inflation later on in the program, but Social Security is a big pillar to most people's retirement income. Now, unfortunately, 40-something% of Americans who are retired, that's their sole source of income. And if it's going to be your sole source of income, you better work as long as you can to get to that full retirement age, because if it's your sole source of income, you want it to be maxed out. And I feel really bad. I mean, I don't know how people live on Social Security alone. I really don't. And 40-something% of retired Americans. And it's terrible when you have a period like we're living in now, where you have major inflation. Because the cost of living increases in Social Security is never even close to the real inflation rate. So inflation continues to eat up the Social Security payment of retirees. And it compounds over time. And that's why it's so important to have other sources of income besides Social Security and retirement. So just think of it now. You're on Social Security now. That's your only source of income. Gasoline prices are up 100%. Food prices are rising like crazy. Last year you got a 6% cost of living adjustment when real inflation was probably 10 to 12. Inflation this year is certainly not running 6%. Officially it's almost 8, but unofficially and in reality it's 15. So take that retiree who got a 6% cost of living increase this year. Well, if inflation is really 15%, and inflation for older people is even higher because you have to take medical costs into consideration, they're losing 6, 7, 8% in purchasing power just in 1 year. Compound that over time. And it's a tragedy. It really is. And I feel so bad for retirees living only on Social Security. And unfortunately, more and more Americans, I think, are going to be living only on Social Security because they didn't put anything away. And to make it even worse, people are retiring with only Social Security and debt. Boy, that's a terrible mix. The worst possible mix you could have. And unfortunately, in the years ahead, we're going to see elderly poverty like I don't think we've ever seen in this country. And it's pretty dreadful. It's already there now from so many American retirees. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. All right, it's the end of the first quarter. It is April, so the first 3 months for financial markets are in the books. So let's take a look at how markets did in the first quarter of 2022. And not very, very good. Not good. One of the worst first quarters that we've seen in a long time. The markets closed out their worst quarter in 2 years on Thursday. Now, 2 years ago, the markets tanked in the first quarter, but that was due to COVID. This year's markets are down due to Biden. That's right. And I'll explain. Now, the stock market had a pretty good March. I mean, we had a rebound in March. The average index is up 3.6% in March. And that improved things after a really dismal January and February. But we're still down for the year. Let's take a look at how down we are. The Dow Jones Industrial Average for the year is down almost 5%, 4.9. The S&P 500 slightly better, down 4.62%. And the NASDAQ is the worst of all the indexes, down almost 9%, 8.84%. So a pretty dismal first quarter of the year for stocks. But better than it was. I mean, only a few weeks ago I was telling you that the NASDAQ was down 13%. The Dow was down 7 and so forth. So, I mean, we've seen a little bit of an improvement in the markets. Now, is this a bear market rally? I think it is. I don't think that we've seen the lows of the market yet. I think we have further to go to the downside for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is inflation, rising interest rates, the end of quantitative easing, the end of the printing of money, at least temporarily. Oil took a little bit of a break after being over $100 a barrel early in the week. We're at 110, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday. We saw some movement down in oil. Oil closed on Friday at 99.14 cents a barrel. So anything under 100 is good. Will it stay there? We'll see. Gold had a pretty good first quarter, $1,926 an ounce as of the close on Friday. But the big story for the first quarter of 2022 is the bond market. We saw interest rates in the bond market rise dramatically in the first quarter of 2022 as the Fed began to raise interest rates and forecast higher interest rates to come. The yield on the 10-year Treasury bond on Friday was 2.37%, which is better than it has been. It's been as high as 2.5%, so there's a little bit of a back off there. Another big story for the first quarter of 2022 is the increase in mortgage rates. It wasn't long ago that we were looking at 3.5% mortgages. After touching 4.9% the week before last, we saw a little bit of a moderation as the bond market yields went down a little bit. Just look at the 10-year Treasury yield. If it's going up, mortgage rates are going up. So at 2.37, that equates to a 30-year fixed mortgage. An average mortgage in the country right now is 4.45%. And that's extraordinarily high compared to what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. And mortgage rates affect housing sales. It affects housing prices, and we're starting to see that reflected in it. Pending home sales fell 4.1% in February and 5.4% from a year earlier. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, in the Northeast here, ironically, we saw housing prices actually up 1.9%. But net down 9.2% compared to this time last year. In the Midwest, for the month, we saw sales fall 6% compared to last year, down 5.2%. In the South last month, sales fell 4.4%, down 4.3% for the year. And in the West, down 5.4% for the month and down 5.3% for the year. Just realize, too, that we're just starting to see this uptick in mortgage rates, just over the last month or so. And it's going to have a direct effect on housing prices. It's really simple. Very, very simple law of financial gravity. That when interest rates go up, home sales go down. And you're going to see, I think, continued decline in home sales. I mean, we've looked at a crazy real estate market we've experienced the last year or two. Crazy. We see houses for the first time in history being sold substantially above the asking price. When did you see that in your lifetime? When somebody lists a house, they're expected to negotiate down. You list a house for $349,900. Chances are you're going to come to an agreement, a contract at $430 something. And people would price their houses with the understanding that they'd come down, so they'd price it above what they expected to get. And in this Alice in Wonderland that we've been living in, at least financial land that we've been living in, over the last year, people have been bidding prices higher than the asking price. You have 30 people bidding for a house. Houses that are listed for $350 going for $400. It's insanity. Now, the reason people were able to do that is because mortgage rates were so low they could afford more house, and they were willing to pay up to get it. Well, you're going to see the reversal of that as interest rates rise. And I think what we're also going to see is we're going to see a lot of people have buyer's remorse who bought these inflated house prices only to see them starting to go down. You remember 2008? What happens if you paid $500,000 for a house, and now because interest rates are higher, that house is selling for $400,000? And maybe you're struggling to pay the mortgage. Are you just going to walk away, and the banks will have to eat it? Another reflection of higher interest rates, mortgage applications. The number of applications for mortgages to buy a home or refinance a loan dropped by 8.1% during the week of March 14th from the previous week. In 1 week. The volume of applications for new mortgages to buy a home slipped 2% for the week and was 12% below the same week last year. 12%. The number of applications to refinance a mortgage were up 14% week on week and down 54% from a year earlier. That door is closed. I mean, if you, and I mentioned it on this program a few months back, I said, if you're thinking about refinancing, you have to do it now. Well, it's too late now. Most people see very little advantage in refinancing their loan at 4.5%. For those of you who did refinance or bought a house in the last 3 years or so, congratulations. You locked in a very, very low interest rate for 30 years. You got yourself a wonderful asset. That's what you call good debt. And many homeowners have mortgage rates that are under 3%. And right now you're looking at 4.5%, and our way to 5.5%, and our way to God knows where. And that's the thing. Do you say in a couple of years you want to move? Are you really going to sell your house and buy a new one and swap that 3% mortgage for a 5% one? These are decisions people are going to have to make about their living arrangements. Hi, honey, I like to move. Let's go to Florida. Well, we'd have to sell our house and give up our cushy 3% mortgage. And now interest rates are 5% or 6%. Do we really want to do that? Does it make sense? So we're starting to see evidence that, and again, this is financial. It's just the nature of finance. When interest rates go up, asset prices go down. And I was talking with a client yesterday in my conference room about the market. I'm seeing a lot of people, they come in with their 401ks, right? I was talking about earlier. Well, 85% in the stock market. They're 60 years old. Are you crazy? I said, you're nuts. I said, the reason why stocks got to insane prices was because interest rates were so low. The Federal Reserve was quantitative easing. They were printing money. They were buying bonds. They were suppressing interest rates. And asset prices rise when all that money's floating around. And when you do the opposite, think about it. Stocks went to incredible heights because interest rates were zero. The Fed was printing money. Monetary policy was easy. It was a big party. So what happens if you reverse that? Well, the reverse happens. Stocks go down. Interest rates go up. Other asset prices decline, like real estate. So now you have to think differently about the market. And that's why we've seen a lot of volatility in stocks this year. That's why the market's down 5%, 8%, whatever it is because of interest rates going up and the fear that it will continue to go up. The fear that the Federal Reserve will reverse quantitative easing. Instead of printing money and buying bonds, they're going to sell bonds that they own and tighten monetary policy to battle inflation. Now, whether they could do that or not, I doubt it, because I think the market's going to take a conniption and the Fed will have to back off from that. The economy would go into recession. So we have to keep an eye on the Fed. We have to keep an eye on interest rates. We got to keep an eye on inflation. We got to keep an eye on our portfolios. No investor escaped the markets of the first quarter of 2022. Whether you were in bonds, whether you were in stocks, didn't matter. There's very, very few people out there that have positive returns. The only people who have positive returns out there are people who own commodities, who own natural resources, who owned real estate in one form or the other. Hard assets. But anybody who's in financial assets, unless you owned one stock that did really well, but I'm just talking about diversified portfolios. The first quarter of 2022 was a losing quarter, and it may portend terrible things later in the year, and we'll have to keep an eye on that. Let's take a break. 732-237-9626 is our call number. You got a personal finance question, you just want to chime in on something, that's welcome here on The Financial Physician. My name's Lou Scatigna. Don't go away.